Hello, you big, beautiful nerds. Welcome back to Mistledine.
Wow.
We're going to be taking a look at all of the Season 2 Curios as they currently stand on the PTR. I have spent a lot of time testing delves. I've tested all of these at some point, and I am going to go through and talk about not only what they do, but my opinions of them, and hopefully maybe potentially how they can be changed or whatever else. But I will say before we dive in, it's looking good, man. Season 2 of Delves is looking really, really good. A lot of changes to the reward structures that are looking nice, and the curios are looking really fun. So we're going to get into these while I am working on a really big video comprehensive delve thing. I've been working on that for a while, and it's getting delayed and pushed back because I'm waiting for information from the PTR before I put it out. So bear with me. It's coming though. But today, let's go ahead. Let's take a look at these curios that we have. So we're going to start off with all the combat curios. As we all know, Bran has two different types of curios he can equip. He can equip the let me make sure this is all set. He can equip the combat curios, which are, you know, obviously to do about combat, but then there's the utility ones, which also do go into the combat section as well. Especially in this one, there's actually one that I'm surprised is a utility one and not a... Anyways, let's get into it. So looking at combat curio, reverse engineered goblin death bomb. We're going to look at all the epic versions because there's no reason to look at the lower ones. You'll be able to upgrade all these just by doing delves. When any player's health falls below 50% during combat, Bran throws a giant bomb that explodes on impact. The explosion knocks back and slows surrounding enemies by 75% for 5 seconds and heals nearby party members for 70% of their maximum health. Can only occur every 2 minutes. So that would mean on average you're probably getting these at 5 times. This will go off during a key that you fall below 50%. You are going to get this to go off about 5 times every delve. I should say, not key. The problem is I think if you are proccing this that often in a delve, then that delve might be there might be other combat utilities you can do here. It's helpful. Like, it's going to be a big heal for you. You're going to knock back enemies and slow them, but is it going to do that much damage? Not really. It doesn't do that much damage to enemies. It just kind of allows you to do stuff. The thing that it might help on is if you are running Bran. So the thing is if you're running delves, if you're running an 11 where you need this one, odds are you're running with Bran as a healer or a tank, and you can just pick up a heal, or he's not going to do anything if he's dead, right? If he's tanking and he dies, and therefore enemies are on you. So I feel like the reverse engineered goblin death bomb is just not as good as we've seen some of the like cheat death curios we've seen in the past, which it kind of is that, right? 50% though is not a, like, I would almost rather the threshold be like, if you fall below 20% and it's an instant bomb that goes off and heals you for 70% of your maximum health, would be better. 50% is so low. It's going to happen. It's like, you're going to get it when you don't really need it. You know what I mean? You're just going to fall below 50% and it's going to go off. The pinged augment chip. This is one that I've actually been using a lot. And I think it's going to be one of the best combat curios you can do. In fact, I think it is just the best combat curio. Maybe. There's another one that I think is really good. We'll talk about it. Bran's maximum health is increased by 55%. His damage and healing done is increased by 55% as well. So I found this to be most useful when he is tanking with his new specialization because of that maximum health increase. He dies a lot if you're not healing him, if you're not a healer, if I'm playing a tank and he's my tank spec. So I found that you kind of need that extra health on him just so he survives a little bit longer. And if you're healing him, then I don't see why you wouldn't do this as well. And then having his damage done increased by 55% as well means that his tanking, because he does do damage while he's tanking. He actually does a pretty good amount of damage. While he's tanking, he's just going to be doing 55% more. So there's no real reason to put him as a DPS. I don't think you'll really ever use Bran as a DPS anymore. It's going to be tank or healer, just because tank does do that damage, holds aggro, and then obviously healing is incredibly beneficial. Moving on. The big part of this. While in combat, Bran may become targeted by mechanical bots. They're called Oh No's, which is fun. 0 H in 0 or something, which can be they'll fixate on him. They can be destroyed or dispelled. If they reach Bran, he'll suffer 15% of his maximum health and damage and be stunned for 5 seconds. So if you have a dispel of any kind, you can use it on the bot, which is interesting. And then you can just target them with, like, right now on my prop paladin, I've been throwing a judgment at them and it pretty much kills them. And they spawn super far away and they walk in. So you basically never really have to worry about this. Obviously don't let them touch him. That's the downside, but it's such a good curio that it's just not that big of a deal, to take care of that oh no bot. Then we have one that I think is really interesting. It's the Goblomagnetic Bouncing Grenade. Bran has a chance during combat to toss a GMB grenade at an enemy target, dealing moderate nature damage with a 60% chance to stun for 1.5 seconds. This has a 75% chance to bounce to a new target, and the grenade can safely bounce on party members. So what happens a lot when you're doing the delves, and I actually really like this one might also be really good, is you'll see the grenades just between you and Bran in between combat packs, because it's not going off. It's waiting for you. So you don't lose it by getting out of combat, which is a problem that we'll talk about with some of these other combat curios, is like you have to build back up to the benefit. Whereas this one, you just have it when you go back into the combat with them. So I really like this one. It's fun. It goes off. It says a 60% chance to stun. It feels like it happens, probably feels like it happens more often than that. Has a 75% chance to bounce to a new target. Anything lower than the epic version of this, I don't think is worth using. But once you have the epic, it might be worth, really checking out and delving deep into making sure that it works. And all of that math is going to be done, right? But I really like this one. It feels like it's bouncing between all the targets all the time. And if you're doing big pulls, it's even better, because odds are it's just going to keep bouncing if you're doing really big pulls and delves. The one thing about this one is, obviously, if you're in an 11 or something and you just can't pull that big, you're pulling like 1 or 2 mobs at a time, then I don't think this one's going to be as good as some of the others. Then we have Pocket Factory. Bran's spells and abilities have the chance to commission the Pocket Factory to build 3 turrets to assist for 20 seconds. I am unsure if this is being tracked with details or anything, but I have not been able to determine how much damage this is doing. I've seen a little bit of the turrets, I feel like, but I just don't feel like they're that common, and I'm not sure how much damage they're doing, but it's exactly what it sounds like. They're going to come out, they're going to assist for 20 seconds, they just do damage to things that are around you, and I don't really notice them, and I don't notice even having it. It just doesn't feel impactful. I'd have to see more data, I guess, behind the numbers of Pocket Factory to see if it's worth it, but they're not doing anything other than more damage, and that's not really something that you need when you're pushing to get to the highest level of delves, right? So I don't know if this one's there. If the turrets also healed or did other things or protected you, and I don't believe they do, but maybe that's just, it is still PTR. Moving on, Impact Conversion Matrix. Upon entering combat, Bran activates the Conversion Matrix for 20 seconds. A small percent of all party damage dealt during this time is converted to primary stat and split between party members. After the Conversion Matrix powers down, the primary stat buff persists for 20 seconds, cannot occur more than once every 2 minutes. So upon entering combat, you're going to activate that. So you want to do as much burst as possible if you have this one as soon as you start the fight, so that you can get that primary stat on your character, and then it's going to go away after 20 seconds, and for 20 seconds more you are going to have that primary stat buff. Okay, every 2 minutes, so for 40 seconds basically you're building it up, and then you have it for 40 seconds every 2 minutes. A delve is over in about 10, so it's actually got a pretty good amount of... Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem with this one. I was going to say it has a pretty good amount of uptime, but if it's upon entering combat, yeah, I don't know. It might actually still be worth doing, as long as you're able to, because you can wait, right? That's the other important thing to consider with delves. You can just wait. This just procced and you're about to pull a big pack. You can just wait that 2 minutes and just do it again when it's done. So this one might actually end up being good. It depends how small of a percent that party damage dealt during this time is. I haven't really noticed this. I'll need to I haven't seen the exact percentage amount, basically. It doesn't seem that impactful when I've just used it. It's just been on, and again, it's one of those things that, like, I don't even notice. So maybe again, that's one of these that has to do more math to see what we're actually doing. But anyways, we're gonna get into the fun ones because I really like these. So we're gonna wait for one. But this is the Mechasaur Easy Build Kit. I really like this one. Brand's Epic Egg, which he has across all 3 specs, now houses 4 Mechasaurs that taunt enemies for 10 seconds while they are within the egg. Once unleashed, it periodically stomps, dealing moderate fire damage split between nearby enemies. Affected enemies explode after 5 seconds, taking moderate fire damage. I don't see this doing a lot of damage while I'm in a delve, but I have seen the egg kind of like pulse a taunt, and that can help. It's actually kind of an interesting thing though, because I feel like the egg is so often that this is an example where healing Bran is more useful than tank Bran if you're using something like this. I don't think I would use this with tank Bran. DPS would have a good time with this, DPS Bran, because you have something that's up so often that it taunts for 10 seconds, which isn't that much, but then you have it when they actually come out, they'll do damage and stuff. I just don't notice that much damage. It says houses 4 Mechasaurs, but when it hatches, I've only seen 1 come out. So I'm curious to see if that's a PTR thing or what. And I think that's it for all the combat ones, except for my personal favorite, the very last one here. So I think pinged augment chip is going to be the go-to. I think this is the one you're just going to use all the time because it's going to be the best, right? But the one that I find the most fun is the automatic foot bomb dispenser. This thing is great. Bran's spells and abilities have a chance to drop 4 foot bombs on the field for 10 seconds. Running into the foot bomb kicks it at your enemy target, dealing tremendous fire damage to all enemies in a 6-yard radius. And it does do a lot of damage. It chunks the pack that you have, and it happens fairly often. And it's 4 foot bombs when it's at the epic version, which is really great. Actually, I think maybe that might be part of the issue with this. Yeah, so that I think is the issue. I think the epic version of the Mechasaur one, by the way, was using like a lower, even though it's epic, I think maybe it was using something else, and that's why it wasn't 4, and I was just seeing 1 come out. I think it was using its common one, which, you know, PTR will be PTR. But this is really, really good. 4 of those, they do so much damage. Even I think the lower one it just has a chance to drop 2. But it does so much damage to them, tremendous fire damage. But it's also just fun. Like, you literally just have something targeted, and then you'll see like a little circle on the ground with a ball, and all you do is just run over the ball, and it will kick it into the group of enemies that you're fighting, and it chunks, it hits real hard. So big fan of that one. I think that one's really cool. Moving on, we have the Utility Curios, and most of these they're all interesting. That's the thing. I really like all of the Curios this season for Delves. I think they're way more interesting, way more fun than the ones we had in season 1. I'm actually glad that they're kind of getting rid of those, because it was pretty much a Porcelain Arrow and Amorphous Relic, right? This one I feel like is going to have like a little bit more, except maybe you're probably just going to use the pink augment chip. Loot Raider. Every 30 seconds or 5 seconds after entering combat, you scan the environment, highlighting mislaid curiosities and making enemies below 95% health take 10% more damage for 15 seconds. So every 30 seconds, Bran will just scan the area, and he'll put like targets, like an actual target icon on any mislaid curiosities that are in the delve around you. And then if you're in combat, 5 seconds after entering combat, the enemies that are below 95% health, so you want to get as many as possible below 95% health, are going to take 10% more damage for 15 seconds. So you would wait, try to get as many enemies below 95%, then burst once that goes off, then try to see if you can kill them all. The problem is anything that's a longer fight, which on higher delves, there's going to be everything is a longer fight. This is not very good. They're taking 10% more health for 15 seconds, but some of these fights are way longer than that, especially if you're fighting the underpin, like Nemesis system ads that come in, the little like mini boss type guys. if you're fighting those usually take longer than 15 seconds. Like, it's just, I just don't know if that's gonna be that great in general. And I'm not entirely sure how you would make it better. The one thing I will say about it is while you are progressing delves, this is a wonderful, wonderful curio to get while you're trying to get XP for Bran and all of that stuff by going and getting the mislaid curiosities, which is when you should. This is really, that's going to be great for that. It's just going to be so easy to find them and everything else. So that's not bad. It's not bad. And then you could actually even... well, you wouldn't be able to. I was going to say you might be able to team that up with something, but you're not because they're both utility. So mislaid curiosities, the second one that has something to do with those is the Kaja carrier. Mislaid curiosities now have a 50% chance to contain 2 Kaja. Once per delve, Bran now summons a Kaja 6-pack when creating campfires. So he's going to do that pretty much right away as soon as you walk into a delve. As long as that is your curio, he makes a camp right away, because he wants to give you that primary buff, which, if by the way you didn't know, you get a really big primary buff by eating by sitting at the campfire that Bran makes for you. Very useful if you're pushing delves. But the Kaja, so I've tried the 6-pack, and it like so every time you drink one, it adds a different buff to you, and it's random what the buff is going to be or what the Kaja is that you picked up or anything like that. And some of them are good. I think I had one that increased my versatility by like 6%. And then obviously the more you find of them that you can drink, the better. But I found that this one it's just not, it's again a useful one, I think, while you're leveling up your brand and doing the season journey and all of that jazz, and you're actually getting the mislaid curiosities. I feel like this one is useful, but obviously once you're done getting mislaid curiosities, they're not really worth it. They're honestly like, they're worth it because all brand XP adds up, but like you don't really need to get it. It's going to depend on how often you get the buffs that they give you, and hopefully we have a source soon, besides like actually just full out testing it, of all of the different boons that it can give. Maybe that's something that I'll do and add to this video if anybody's interested in seeing that. And then we have the comically large magnet. When Bran uses gathering tools, there is a 100% chance to magnetize discarded plating to party members, granting them 4% of their maximum health as a shield that regenerates out of combat. So this one is really good if you're finding the resources. My issue is I feel like in delves, you're probably only going to get like 3 to 4 nodes of something that Bran is using gathering tools on. At least that's what it feels like to me. So that means at most you're getting, I'd say probably 12% of your maximum health as a shield that regenerates out of combat. That's the big issue, out of combat. In a delve, you're probably in combat all the time, right? You're constantly pulling stuff, you're constantly doing it. And then when this would be useful is for really hard-hitting bosses or something that are in delves. Well, they're just going to chunk through it and then you can't get it back. So I don't really recommend. I think this one is going to be a fairly useless tool, unless for some reason that's where your farming stuff is in delves. And I just don't think there is. Okay, I guess that's not entirely true, because the gathering tools there, he would find it more than that. He'd probably get up to 20% of your maximum health as a shield, which still doesn't feel like that much, to be honest with you. But because you're going to find there's gold piles all around that he'll find now, which is different, I feel like, than like you'll literally see gold piles on the ground in season 2. So yeah, I don't know. I still don't think it's worth it though, because if some of these bosses are going to chunk through your 20% health so quick, and other mobs are going to, that's just not really, it doesn't really do anything. And then we have the biofuel rocket gear, which I really like this one, but huge like asterisk here. Party members, so one person can have this in your party, which I've actually noticed there's a few of that. Like, it affects party members, right? The comically large, so only one person needs to use this. So they're actually there's a lot of benefit of like going to a party and organizing, like, okay, I'll take the comically large magnet, you take the biofuel rocket gear, and somebody else takes, one of the other things. Is actually really interesting that they're doing that in a system that's kind of designed for solo players, right? But anyways, so the biofuel, Each enemy slain has an 80% chance to fuel the rocket gear, increasing speed and haste by 1% for 45 seconds, stacking up to 30 times. 30% haste, 30% speed. It stacks up to 30 times, so you can renew the stack as long as you can kill something in that if you're killing stuff every 45 seconds, then this is going to be an incredibly good utility curio. The problem is most things probably take longer than 45 seconds to kill when you're talking about like bosses and enemies that are going to give you a lot of trouble. So yes, it'd be good to build it up before you get into that fight with them, right? Like if you're able to refresh your stacks and then immediately pull a boss, then it's going to be huge. But I feel like it's going to be hard to optimize this one. As a solo player, I think it's probably not worth it. As a party, and you have one person that just is dedicated to bringing this with them, I think it might be really good. So this is one to keep an eye on. And if you're able to plan out your delve, I'm talking like, you know, 9, 10, 11s, stuff like 11s, so that we can get our 21 gilded crest now, because they just increased how much those actually give every week. So if you're farming 11s, doing your 3 11s every week for the gilded by yourself, this one's probably not going to be the best, but odds are maybe you'll have a friend or something to do it with. I don't know. I think biofuel rocket gear might end up being the utility one that you pick. Like having the pinged augment ship and the biofuel rocket gear might end up being the like go-to default. But then we're going to talk about some of the other ones that I like and other ones that I have an issue with. So we have 3 left. The 3-dimensional bioprinter, damaging an elite creature below 40% health, creates an imperfect copy of it at 100% power to fight by your side. Only 2 copies can exist at the same time. The device may malfunction, creating imperfect copies of your companion. So I don't know if I've seen it malfunction. I don't even really know what that means, if they're just like less effective or what. But I was using this one for quite a while, and it felt like it was doing some work, especially if you can target which elite creature you want that 40%. I've noticed that they just auto attack, so it doesn't really matter on like abilities, but it does feel like some of them are a little bit stronger. Like if you're able to get one of the underpin enemies, the nemesis system guys, if you're able to get one of them to come to your side, I feel like they just attack faster. It feels like they do more damage. So this one might be interesting. You're also just making another target, which is kind of useful, right? But again, that's a damaged one that is totally going to depend on how much damage those things actually put out. Then we have the overdrive pylon, which is dope. After 30 seconds of combat, party members and Bran deal 24% more damage and healing for 40 seconds. Can only occur once per combat. So my thinking is if you are a lust or hero class, like you have that available to you, or you know, pots, cooldowns, whatever. 30 seconds of combat, party members and Bran deal 24% more damage and healing for 40 seconds, can only occur once per battle. The only time that you are really going to need that is on those like mini bosses and bosses of delves. 30 seconds of combat, you're probably, unless you're doing like a huge pack, you're probably getting through those. I think the overdrive pylon might also be really good. The issue is can you finish a fight in 40 seconds after it procs? I think so. That's a 70-second fight. I think most delve fights are probably over in 70 seconds. Especially if you're doing 24% more damage and healing. And Bran does that much more. So I think this one might also be really good. I wouldn't be surprised to see, again, the pinged augment chip and then the overdrive pylon being the like go-to default for 11s, just because Bran is now dealing what, 99% more damage, or no, sorry, 79% more damage. I can do math, which is quite a bit, especially because again his tank does do damage as that, which is fun. And then for the big one, the pacifist rig. This apparently is from when you beat the undermine, the boss of season 2, you get the pacifist rig, which is a utility curio, not a combat curio. During combat, a pilot is designated over 8 seconds before airdropping the pacifist rig MK4 at their location, equipping them with it for 20 seconds and knocking back nearby enemies. This sounds amazing, and when it happens, it's dope. It's really cool, but it's so random at how often it actually happens and when it happens. I have had, I'll actually include some footage from it. I have had this thing spawn right when I needed it, and I have had it spawn when the pack I'm on is about to die, and I'm nowhere near another pack to be able to utilize it. It also does this weird, like when it comes down, it also knocks you back. Like it comes down and like you kind of go backwards a little bit, so you want to position in such a way that you can get the mech there faster. And then there's nothing that the pacifist rig, like it's not going to do anything. Like you don't have extra action bars to use or anything like that. However, what you do have when you use the rig, so it might end up being the best, is it gives you, let's see if I can go into a delve and see if that will work. All right, so it's coming down now, and you'll see that it's going to stun all the enemy. It knocks them away, and then it just does this, right? A big fire flamethrower. However, if you look at it, it says the pacifier spitter, which is what it's doing now, 8 rocket silos, which you actually just saw, single charge seismic leap piston. I'm not sure. I think it's if you can like double jump with it, but then it also actually has a cheat death effect. So as long as you, which doesn't happen all the time, but as long as you have the thing, it will cycle between those, I guess. Anyways, I don't think the pacifist rig, is as incredible as I think we were hoping it was going to be, but it definitely doesn't seem bad, and it does a lot of damage when it does come down. The problem is, again, is just trying to optimize when you actually get access to it, right? If the pack dies, you get it, or I did almost an entire boss fight without it dropping at all, but it did drop for me on packs that I didn't need it at all. You know what I mean? It was just so that's something to keep in mind. But overall, it's not bad if you're using both of these. I feel like the pick is going to end up being the pinged augment chip. Is probably going to be the best, and then the overdrive pylon or the biofuel rocket gear, if you can make that work for you, and you just always, if you can benefit and just always have 30% more haste and speed throughout your delve, obviously that's going to be the best. And then the overdrive pylon, I think, is also going to be a big one depending on the fight. Especially I'm thinking of the season 2 boss. Season 2 boss is probably not going to be the biofuel rocket gear unless there's a lot of ads that you can kill. And there's going to be no mislaid curiosities that you're going to be getting. And you're obviously not going to use the Loot Raider or the Kaja-Cola or the Comically Large Magnet for those. So my guess is the only one that you're actually going to be using at all on the boss of the season is going to be the biofuel, assuming that enemies get summoned that can easily be taken out, or the overdrive pylon, which is kind of useless after, it's just not going to be that good. You get 40 seconds of doing 24% more damage. That is cool after 30 seconds of combat, but I don't think you're going to finish the seasonal boss that fast. You won't have the pacifist rig because I believe it only drops from the boss itself, unless, maybe the 3-dimensional I'm not sure what you're going to end up using as a utility thing. We don't know what the boss is yet, so I don't know, but it's going to be kind of weird. Definitely feel like the pinged augment chip is going to be the best. Potentially, I think my choice is definitely going to be the automatic foot bomb dispenser. Being able to just run into those bombs and shoot them at people is kind of cool. That's going to be my go-to. I think. And who knows, that might actually end up being really, really good for the boss of the season too, if there's a lot of ads that need to be cleared out. But anyways, that's just a little look and overview and impressions and stuff after a lot of testing for delves. I've run a lot of 11s on PTR. I've done a lot. I've done mostly Bran as tank spec, and he's cruising. So that's it. That's today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about PTR or delves, let me know in the comments below. I'm working on a big video, everything I wish I knew about delves. So if you have any tips or tricks or things you learned or things you wish you knew, please provide them in the comments. And I'll see y'all on stream. Never give up, never surrender. Bye, nerds.